Okay, it's about 5 after. We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. I want to start by thanking everybody for joining us today. This is one of several webinars we've put on over the last few years, highlighting specific industries, features, and use cases for Arreya, as well as some of our key partners. With today's webinar, we've invited special guest John Matson from Google and Miles Schofield from AOpen. John's going to talk a little bit about Chrome OS and Chrome device management, and Miles from AOpen is going to talk to us a little bit about some of their new devices and their Chrome devices. John and Google and Miles at AOpen. Google and AOpen are both partners of Arreya, so they're part of the ecosystem and package that we've put together to help power our content and make sure it stays running. So today I want to take a look at how easy digital signage can transform your communications to your customers, employees, and students. I realize not everybody's in these industries, but a lot of the information here applies across different industries. The same techniques are used, the same content and delivery methods are used. So as I present these examples, think about how it might work in your context, in your use case. Some of the topics we're going to be covering today, we'll do a quick introduction about what is Arreya. Some of the people for this webinar might be new users. Some of you are existing users. We'll do a brief overview of what is Arreya, what are kind of some of the key features. And then we're going to jump into some of our new features. We recently released a number of new features. It was one of our largest updates we've ever performed. And we're going to highlight some of those key features and key widgets that we've included in this new release. After that, we're going to go into some retail use cases and examples. We'll show you some things that have been done with Arreya and which widgets might fit good in certain situations. AOpen's going to talk a little bit about their new devices as well as their existing Chrome devices and why they're good for these use cases with retail and employee communications. And then we're going to go into some examples about employee communications, things that have been done with Arreya, and again, where these new widgets fit into using in employee communications. After that, we'll follow up with a guest speaker from Google, John Matson, who will talk to us about CDM, or Chrome device management, and kind of answer the question, why Google, why Chrome? Then we'll have a brief question and answer, and the part everybody wants to get to is at the end, we will have a Chrome-based mini giveaway. So make sure you stay till the end of this webinar. At the end, we'll collect your name, and as long as it matches up to one of our registered names on the list, we'll be giving you a free Chrome-based mini. So jumping right into it, what is Arreya? Some of you may already know this, but Arreya is cloud-based digital signage. Really key features to us are being able to create and manage content in your browser and remotely manage your devices in your browser. The software is flexible, so you can create interactive and non-interactive applications across a variety of different markets and verticals and industries. And we try to focus on not locking you in. This includes on the software side as well as the hardware side. Arreya is not tied to any one device, so you can pick and choose from AOpen's offerings and Google's offerings for devices. There's definitely recommended devices and best experiences, so if you do have a question about hardware, please reach out to us or Google or AOpen with your questions about the hardware, and we can point you towards the best hardware for your use case. So I'm going to jump right into a quick live demonstration. I want to show you a little bit about what Arreya is and does. For this live demonstration, I've got an example presentation up, and this is in the app that we call the editor. Inside the editor, you can pick and choose and move different elements. We can also style them, as well as change options for these elements. In this case, I'm going to update a Google Calendar. I want to show that it's easy to bring in content from another area. I've got a Google Calendar up here. And if I go into the calendar settings, into sharing, I can copy the address for that calendar and paste it into this new widget. It'll go ahead and load the events from our calendar. The cool thing about this is updated, so whenever your calendar changes, your content's going to change. I'll show you in our examples that we have a number of new ways of doing this, ways to update your content outside of Arreya and even give control of those updates to people in your organization or outside of your organization while staying secure. The editor itself has received some updates. One of the big ones we're going to highlight today is the concept of using our pages as the slideshow. This is a feature we call dynamic slideshows. It was something that came about from customer request. A number of our customers asked us, how can I do everything but not just on one page? How do I use these widgets on multiple pages and make it automatically go through them? So we provided a new feature where you can create multiple pages, and without using any touch points, you can have it automatically go to the next page in advance like a slideshow. This way, our clients are able to create a whole new experiences that are more dynamic than what they were able to create before. You're no longer limited to creating slides in a third-party program and then importing them into Arreya. You can actually create your slides in Arreya or add some enhancements to your existing slides that might be coming from another program. So talking a little bit more about dynamic slideshows, this came out of a question from our customers. How do I create my slides in Arreya? Can I use existing widgets in my slides? And I already created pages, but how do I make them advance from one to the next? With our new dynamic slideshow feature, you can take an existing sign that has multiple zones on one page, and you can create additional pages with one or more zones. So a slide or a presentation that might have 4 things on the home page can now be broken up into 2 pages with larger content that automatically cycles through. You have options on transition, duration, and how those pages are going to advance. One of the new widgets we're really excited about came with working from a lot of people in the education side, as well as some in the corporate communication and retail side as well, is the idea of using Google Slides for content updates. With our new Google Slides widget, you're able to copy and paste a URL to a Google Slides presentation, and it will be embedded within your slideshow in Arreya. This allows you to put other content and widgets around the slideshow content, but more importantly, it allows you to update that slideshow outside of Arreya. So if your end user knows Google Slides and you don't want to train them on a new piece of software, you can simply share your Google Slides presentation with your end user, and when they make their changes, they'll show up on the signage. This also follows through with access control. If your Google's set up with Google Admin Console and G Suite, you're able to share these presentations with your users and retain your corporate access control. So you know that only people within your corporation are accessing your content or have permission to update it. In a retail setting, this can provide a way to do easy product promotions, easy slideshows for things like video walls. On the employee communication side, it allows for extremely easy content management as well as the control and sharing aspect. You could have teams of people updating a slideshow, or you might just have one person in charge of those updates. There's also some ways to do some integration with data. So sometimes you might want a pretty slide that's put together, but that it needs to pull from a different data source. And using Google Scripts and some advanced utilities with Google Sheets, you're able to pull in those elements and make automatic data-driven updates to your content. On that note, we've also included Google Sheets integration. This allows us to take data from a Google Sheet and embed it into a sign. A great example of this is for menu boards or anything that might display dynamic pricing. This allows the end user to update the pricing on a Google Sheet that is automatically fed to the signage. So the end user that's updating the pricing or the third party that's updating the pricing never needs to learn about Arreya or how to use Arreya. They only need to learn how to update a Google Sheet and the pricing within it. Great uses for this are menu boards, being able to customize things at a store level. So if you have corporate level content, you can then share a sheet with the store level and let them update only portions of the signage, again, outside of Arreya, so you retain control. It also allows for dynamic messaging. If you want to hook this up to another data source, in one instance here in our office, we have it connected to our CRM system. So as new customers are added, the signage in our dashboard is automatically updated. And again, there's a number of advanced integrations you can do with Sheets and scripts within Google. If you're looking at connecting to other web services or third-party utilities, there are a number of ways through RSS and other integrations within Sheets that you're able to pull in third-party data. And again, one of the key features of this is that anytime that data in the sheet changes, the signage will automatically update with that change. Building on top of our experience with Google Sheets, we went ahead and built in a component for Google Charts as well. Google Charts is able to generate a number of types of charts right from your Google Sheets data. A lot like Google Sheets, these charts are live and automatically updated. So in a retail setting, you can do things about popular items, maybe a graph of store traffic or peak times. For employee communications, performance data, CRM data, any type of dashboard for sales, support, and call centers, as well as some unique types of charts. So you'll see some down here with gauges, timelines like a Gantt chart, org charts even. So as your organization updates, you can output an org chart right to your signage. And again, this is possible to update these charts using some third-party integrations. If you want to import data automatically into a sheet, you can then have that update the graph automatically. So looking a little bit at retail, one of the things we like to look at with Arreya is, do we provide a complete solution? And there's a number of different types of displays, a number of things you can do within retail, from menu boards, point of purchase displays, video walls, your standard product displays that are just showing pure merchandising and product information, as well as some special use cases like live streaming. Sometimes there's an event that might be live streamed or news that might be live streamed. We support streaming through YouTube Live, so even events like today's webinar can be embedded within Arreya. And then one last use case I want to point out is interactive kiosk. Along with managing dynamic slideshows and regular signage content, Arreya also focuses on interactive content. So when we talk about some of these new devices and what can be done with them, we now have some new avenues with touchscreen content that we did not have before. So looking at the menu board use case a little bit more, some of the widgets we use on a menu board and some of the new features, we now have the ability to do background video. So we can place a video into the background of your signage, and we make it easy. We automatically convert the video, and you can insert it into your signage within just a couple clicks. In this case, if I want to take my signage here in the editor and add a background video, I can go up to the page settings, go into the theme, and choose a background video. You'll see right away that the background video is added behind the content and it begins playing. This is an amazing way to add a lot more interactivity and look and feel to your signage, something that might attract people as they walk by. Again, there's a lot of ways we can integrate Google Sheets with this. So things like 20% off, sale information, coupon codes can be displayed through Google Sheets and quick updates through those sheets. Same with Google Slides. One of the key things there is, again, it's easy to share. So if you want to share a Google Slides presentation with your agency, they can directly update the content on your signage without having full access to your system. It's just a shared presentation. We also have custom integration available. So using things like the RSS widget, if you have a third-party ticket queue system, you can integrate that in Arreya. And then one place that does get a little more interesting now that we have dynamic slideshows is you can take one of these static displays like the one at the top right about the deal of the day, and you can make that a little more dynamic by creating a second page of content that might highlight the rides that you're getting a pass for or highlight the snap bracelets that are on sale. And again, that extra movement and motion on the display is going to help attract more customers. Talking a little bit about interactive kiosks, there's a number of different types that you might find in a retail situation. Things like product selectors that'll help you choose the right parts or the right product, or maybe a product configurator. There's also wayfinding kiosks. How do I find my way around the store? Which floor do I find this item on? as well as just general informational kiosks about the store, other locations, things like that. One of the great things about our interactive content is it is a link. Everything we do is web-based, so you get a link to your content that can be shared with anyone. Or if you choose, you can lock it down for private use, so that's only available within your store and people you choose to give access to. Again, one of the awesome things that we do is all of this content is created in your browser. It's usable in your browser. You don't need to jump out and preview it on another device to see how it's going to act. Once it's created in your browser, you can actually click through these items in our editor and start working with it right away. On the interactive side, there's our built-in widgets, which have a number of interactive components. There's also third-party content and services. So if you want to make a survey form, you might embed a Google form inside your content. Or if you have a children's area and you want to provide games for kids, there are a number of games that can be embedded within our content. And those are just some of the use cases. Within retail, there are a lot of different types of use cases. Looking at one of our retail clients, this client actually has showrooms all across North America. Right now, they total over 100 locations. They're using Arreya with multiple languages, and they've got 2 different channels of content. So this is actually one of the maps that they see when they log into Arreya and look at their devices. And it's quite interesting to see that there is information all over the globe. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to our guest speaker, Miles at AOpen, to tell us a little bit more about the new AOpen devices and what we can do with them.
Thanks, Walter. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay, let's get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Miles Schofield. I'm a senior sales engineer for AOpen America. And what I'm here to talk about today is, number one, who is AOpen? Why am I in this webinar at all? And what you can expect from our devices and what we, of course, have to offer. So just to start things off, AOpen has been around for a long time, over 20 years. And it is a global, what's called OEM ODM, which means that we have our own technology and existing in addition to making products for other people. So companies come to us with their design ideas, and then we work with them to actually produce that device. So we're able to provide solutions all over the globe to tons and tons of different companies. We're actually a very, very small part of an extremely large Taiwanese manufacturer called Winstron. Reason why that's important is because Winstron is one of the largest manufacturers in the world, and they make everything for everyone. They make products for Apple, HP, you know, the whole gamut. And but AOpen as a company, what we've been doing and what we specialize in is making general use, commercial grade devices. The reason why commercial grade devices we'll get into a lot. But what we basically focus on is general use, which means that we don't add any really, really super specialized technology to the device to make it only applicable in one market. And of course, commercial grade means that it's designed to be the most stable device that you can buy for the application that you're working in. In this case, we're going to talk a lot about signage. So one of the things that Walter brought up, and I'm sure John will bring up as well, is of course these sort of solutions are about partnership. You know, when Google was looking to get into the digital signage business, why would they even come to an OEM ODM like AOpen? You know, they already have tons of consumer grade devices that you can go out and buy right now. Well, they came to us because the thing I always say is that a commercial application requires commercial grade devices. And so when they were looking at getting into this market, they wanted to come to a company with years and years, decades of experience in this space to develop a device together to bring to market. It's very similar to what happens when Google works with other partners. So in this case, this was about 2 years ago when Google first came to us, and we discussed making a commercial grade Chrome OS device specifically for digital signage and all the various kiosk applications that you can use these devices and media players for. So I'm just going to talk about these first 2 devices that we released. They were released about 2 years ago. These were the first ones. They were sort of a mid-range entry into the market. By mid-range is that they're both designed to support two FHD screens. So both of them, you can see that the device on the right, which is our Chrome base commercial, is a 22-inch all-in-one. Not only can that run its the full HD screen that you see, obviously, in the device, it can run an external one as well. So when these devices, the way that they were developed is basically the guts are exactly the same, so basically they both have basically the same amount of power, but obviously one's an all-in-one and comes with an FHD screen on the front. So when we're talking about Chrome OS commercial grade, it's about what AOpen brings in terms of the commercial boxes is that it's just not a hand-waving argument. What commercial means is basically when we're telling you failure rates or MTBF or anything about the box reliability, we're talking about it when you're running signage, when you have the box on all day and your business is depending on it, if you go and buy any old device, all those failure rates just have to do with you using it on your couch, and just who cares if it fails. But what commercial devices are all about is creating something that your business and specifically business applications can depend on. So these devices in particular, like I said, they're sort of middle range in terms of power. The one on the left is one of the most affordable two-screen players. It's a Chromebox commercial that you can buy. And the one on the right, the reason why we went initially with 22-inch is that it's a great form factor for self-checkout or for inventory browsing in a retail environment. You don't really want something huge because consumers really get lost in very large touch devices. So these sort of devices, 22-inch is a good format for when you really want to show off your product, still attract a lot of attention, get people to walk over there, and have a real image-based selling strategy. So the next two devices that we released, and this was back in March of 2017 at DSC, are our Chrome Box Mini and our Chrome Base Mini. So same sort of a design idea behind both devices. They both have the same guts and the power, but this time we went for a much cheaper, more affordable option on both. They both still have the same commercial quality aspects that I'm going to talk about a lot of the specifics coming up. But generally speaking, both of these devices are designed to run about one full HD screen. So the Chromebox Mini, which is the small box on the left, has one HDMI output on the back and is designed just to run one screen on any format video, I mean. And the device on the right is our 10.1-inch Chrome Base Mini, and that one can push the screen, which is about 1080p. However, it can actually run an external FHD screen as well. So the Chrome Base Mini and the Chrome Box Mini, obviously, Chrome Box Mini we released to sort of give the most affordable commercial option on the market. One of the things about the partnership that we have with Google is that AOpen currently makes the only commercial grade Chrome OS devices in the world. And so if you're doing a commercial Chrome OS application, you need to be using AOpen devices. So to talk more about the Chrome Base Mini, why 10.1? So the reason why 10.1 is because there's a lot of applications that use non-commercial grade hardware. I'm sure you see them all over the place. They're those little loyalty pads that you click on. They're the web paws that you swing around at your local pizza shop when they have you check out. And they all have these crazy mounts on them and stuff like that, and they break constantly. They're not really designed for that application. So we decided to release this specifically 10.1 to sort of fit in that space where all those non-commercial applications. So we're currently talking to all those companies that you're probably familiar with in terms of replacing their non-commercial tablets with this device. So let's get into some of the features. I don't have time to go through the entire spec sheets and all that stuff, but I wanted to point out to you something about what separates a commercial device from a consumer device. Not only is it obviously, they're way more reliable, and the runtime's better, and the MTBF is better. But we actually have features very specific to commercial applications that you wouldn't really realize until something was breaking at your company, right? One of the things that you may not have thought about in terms of an all-in-one device and just mounting it is, well, in a lot of these cases, when you put these around people, they're just going to break out of them and start surfing the web or doing whatever on them. This happens a lot with people who try to do systems in buses or in public places. I mean, they'll just break out and start, surfing, stuff like that. Or you can futz with the power button and all that stuff. So one of the primary features about AOpen's all-in-one devices is that you can see that they're completely locked down. There's no exposed power button, and you can see that there's a plate that actually goes down, and you can tie down absolutely every single cable going into this thing. So you can hang on the cables, they're not going to come out, and there's no way to futz around with the power button. So you can just mount this thing right out in the open, and it's completely tamper-proof. And what John's going to talk about is how the software plays a role into completely locking down these devices, so there's no way to break out of the user experience at all. So they're guaranteed not only to run constantly, but always be doing what you want them to do. So to talk a little bit more about the features involved with our commercial devices across all of them is, obviously, as I mentioned, the ruggedized. Another super important commercial feature that you may not have considered is the auto power resumption. Consumer devices, they're not designed to restart if there's a power blip. If your power goes off in your apartment, your PC isn't going to restart, which is no big deal. All you do is hit the power button. But the problem is that if you own a bar and your digital signage is 30 feet in the air, how are you going to run up there and hit the power button? So these devices are designed to auto restart on power resumption. So you never get into this situation that you would with a consumer device. Long-range AC, these are the only Chrome OS devices, all four of them are the only Chrome OS devices with dual-band Wi-Fi. Obviously, if you have a web-based application that it relies on downloading your content and working with a CMS, you want the best internet as possible, and a lot of businesses are not in the best Wi-Fi situation. So these devices give you the best chance at maintaining connectivity. And I don't want to go over all these, but secure power connector, the one I mentioned, drop proof. They're very heat resistant. This is really important because when you put these things in kiosks in the middle of a mall in Florida, that's these devices can operate up to 140, and those things just start baking, especially if they're an outdoor kiosk. And all four devices are completely solid state, which means that they're shock resistant, and that just makes them last that much longer. But the other thing I wanted to bring up, of course, is that AOpen isn't just doesn't just produce our devices. We work with our partners such as Google and Arreya, and to provide you with the complete solution. So we have mounting solutions with all our devices. So if you say, well, how do I get a Chrome-based Mini, on a table, or I want to do it over here, and all this sort of stuff. We have not only our own internal stands and mounts and stuff like that, but we work with all the best kiosk manufacturers in the world to make sure that you get really, from a device side, everything that you're looking for. So just to give a quick recap, AOpen as a company, we're really about engineering the best products for the commercial space. The longest lasting, the lowest failure rate. We really don't want you to have to think about the hardware ever. The last thing we want you to do. We know it's super frustrating when anything fails. When you're working on your work computer and it goes down, just think about how frustrated you are. Just imagine, with all these customers where these devices are part of their point of sale. If you can't charge people money, you can't sell things. If the information, if your menu boards are up and they're not displaying anything, they're just blank screens. Not only can you not sell anything, but it reflects poorly on your business. So the whole idea behind AOpen is that we're giving you those devices that really give you that peace of mind and reliability. And in addition to actually working with partners like Arreya and Google to make sure that the package altogether, we work all together to support you and your application as best as possible. So there you go. Thanks for your time, and I'll give it back to you, Walter.
Thanks, Miles. That was definitely informative. Just want to recap a couple of the things you mentioned. Definitely agree on the 10.1-inch device. That's something that we've been looking at for some time. We've had a number of customers ask us, do you have something smaller than 20 inches or 22 inches? Is there something I can fit on a retail shelf or maybe next to a conference room? So this device gives us some new abilities as well as some new use cases. So we're excited to see what can be done in retail as well as corporate communications on those employee kiosks, conference room signs, things like that. You also highlighted the benefit of the partnerships. One of the things that's maybe a little different about our partnerships, we do cover the full range of the solution. So while Arreya is working on the software side, we have AOpen on the devices, and we've got Google backing the operating system that runs those devices, allowing us to manage them. So we really put together a complete solution with these partnerships, and we all work together to make sure that those pieces are working together smoothly now and in the future as these automatic updates come out. So we're always constantly testing together and talking and making sure that these devices and these solutions are the best. You also highlighted the benefit of commercial hardware. Sometimes that can be a hard thing to learn. The benefit of commercial hardware is learned that first time you realize that your device is down and that you could have had a device that didn't go down. So we always try to recommend commercial hardware wherever possible. We recommend if our clients are in any of those unique situations you highlighted or have those unique needs, if it is going to be outdoor or in a unique situation where it'll get hot. You also mentioned locking down on use cases like buses where there might be physical intrusion to the devices. That's something that really you don't think about much until you see those devices in that situation and people are tampering with them or see the aftermath of it. So those are all great points. I think you really covered the device as well and gave us some key points to walk away with on why we should choose those devices and the benefits they provide, as well as the uniqueness of some of the new devices and the reasons for producing these new devices. So moving forward, I'm going to talk a little bit about employee communications. We looked at retail earlier. This time I want to look at employee communications. A lot like retail, there are a number of use cases within employee communications. You've got call center status. So if you have a support team or a call center, they can chart out their statistics. You've got employee messaging, welcoming people to the team, team statistics. Sales guys usually want a sales dashboard. Let's see the numbers for the quarter and for the week. Another one is just general messaging. One of the unique things that a client recently pointed out to us was having digital signage in an employee setting can sometimes give you another avenue for messaging that's a little different that you don't have right now. Even if you have an intranet and you can communicate by email, sometimes you can be a little more playful on the monitors and be a little more happy when you recognize people. So it is kind of a different venue, and your language and how you word things and how you present things can be a little more fun and help drive some of that employee engagement with the signage. In addition to that, we also do cover the idea of that employee kiosk, but it doesn't have to be a kiosk. With the signage being web-based and the ability to lock it down for private viewing and even give out viewer logins that you can track, you can also use this for a self-service employee application. So employees could access this on their phones and their tablets to see upcoming events, news, handbooks, and forms. So looking inside these use cases just a little bit, some of the widgets we might use on these type of use cases, we've got Google Sheets and Google Slides. Google Sheets is great for the sales dashboard or the statistics dashboard, whether it's call center, sales, or even their marketing team. That'll allow you to bring in data from a third-party source or data that you enter, depending on how your company's organized, and display it on the signage, all updated through Google Sheets. You can also tie that in with Google Charts and chart out that data And again, whether it's entered by you manually or whether that data is automatically pulled from a third-party system or pushed into that sheet from a third-party system. You retain the sharing controls. So as an administrator, you can set up your signage and just share the Google Slides for that slide area. That makes it so end users don't have to be trained on Arreya, and you can retain all the security of your company controls through your G Suite accounts. Again, background video is very popular. It takes signage that might not be updated every hour and gives it some motion. Anytime you can provide more motion through the use of pages and transitions or elements within those pages, you're going to have more people looking at the signage. There are some custom integrations that can be done. So things like RSS integration with third-party systems. And again, those dynamic slideshows. You can take one of these displays like the one with the family picnic that has 4 or 5, maybe even 6 zones on some signs that we see today. And you can start to break those up into full screen pages. So you might have just one page of weather for one location, or one of our clients actually has weather for 18 different locations on one page, so they can see a dashboard if their weather is one of their slides. Lots of different options there. Really opens up what you can create within Arreya. Thinking about the employee or customer kiosk a little bit, we mentioned the Chrome-based Mini, a 10.1-inch screen. You saw some of the stands that they have available for the commercial Chrome base. That way you could put a kiosk out in front for your employees or maybe for visitors to your location. Again, you can have wayfinding use cases and things like that for visitors, or even check-in. It's unique that you can reach employees on their devices. We actually have some clients that don't use Arreya for traditional digital signage in their location. They're actually using it specifically so they can share that link and integrate that and talk to their employees through their mobile devices. With that, you can definitely make your content private. We have a mix of people using our platform. Some of them have totally private content. Other ones are distributing public content, so they leave it open and try to track who does view it. Some of the popular items within here are things like company news, calendars, event updates, training videos is a big one. We also get questions on how do I submit feedback from my employees, or how do I have them submit an order to me? So if you think of maybe a food chain, if you think of a restaurant and the different people out there, you might have a chain of 5 restaurants. How do they submit their orders for things like uniforms? If they have a form that they can jump on and say, I'm this restaurant number, I need this many uniforms delivered, it makes it a lot simpler. You're not losing that in an email. It's tracked in a sheet already. And it's integrated with this utility that might be on a Chrome-based Mini. It might be on a large format touchscreen, like a 32-inch touchscreen or 42-inch touchscreen in a break room, or it could be something that's just on their phone. One interesting statistic about a client that uses Arreya for employee communications, there's a Fortune 5 company using Arreya for their internal communications right now. They've got over 25 channels, over 100 devices, and they reach an audience of almost 9,000 employees. It's quite an interesting statistic. It's a large audience, a diverse group of the type of communications they're sending out, but it does show the scale that this can operate at. We have clients that use this on a one-to-one basis. It might be a principal updating just one screen in their school, but we also have it used over a wide variety and large accounts as well. At this point, I want to turn it over to John to talk about Chrome device management a little. Chrome device management comes into this question a little bit when we talk about hardware and content. Those things get you up and running and display on the screen. The question then becomes, how do we keep that up and running? What's the day-to-day maintenance? How do we handle an issue or an outage? Chrome device management does those tasks and a whole lot more. So I'm going to let John fill in on why we should do this.
Thanks, Walter. My name is John Matz, out of Austin, Texas. Trying to fix that. Walter, you might echo mute on your side. So again, John Matz, I'm based out of Austin, Texas. I'm responsible for the software and hardware ecosystem related to our digital signage and kiosk solutions, so both the hardware and the software piece. Google Chrome, from a business standpoint, sits under our Google Cloud organization, and we see Chrome as our endpoint for our cloud-based solutions. Like Walter mentioned, I'm going to talk about Chrome and its use case in digital signage and kiosk. And we feel like Chrome is the best device platform for digital signage. And the reason why we do is because of these 4 characteristics. We feel like it's a reliable platform, it's efficient, it's simple to use, and it's flexible. And I'll go into each one of these in more detail. When we talk about reliability, as Miles mentioned from an AOpen, they have solid state components into their devices. They're fanless devices, and so they're very simple to use, and they're reliable, and it's more appliance-like uptime. We do have redundant copies of our operating system within any Chrome device, and so when the device boots up, if it sees malware or that the operating system has been tampered with, it fails over to the second operating system and still boots up in that 6 to 8 second boot up time for us. Miles mentioned the auto power resumption, which is very important in the consumer space or enterprise space, I should say, especially in digital stores and stuff like that possibly might have power loss. And finally, security from a reliability standpoint. I could probably have a presentation itself or a complete slide deck on security, but we have an encrypted device storage, multi-level security. We provide updates about every 6 weeks, and you don't have to have any antivirus software on your device. We are maintaining the full security of that device. From an efficient and cost-effective standpoint, our operating system is optimized to run on very low-end hardware. In fact, the first laptop Chromebook that we came out with probably about 7 or 8 years ago now runs even it's more optimized to even run. It runs faster on our operating system today than it was when it was released. As far as it being efficient in operation and deployment, that very much goes back to our software stack and our ability to do Chrome device management and deploy it. And I'll go into all the details on Chrome device management in a few slides. Our operating system is free to manufacturers, which ultimately leads to low starting cost price points for you as a customer. And so you can see, as Miles mentioned, AOpen, the Chrome Box Mini starts off at $189 price point. Google always believes in simplicity. As I mentioned, this very much goes back to the idea of deploying and managing these devices at scale. And this goes back to our benefits of Chrome device management overall. And so you have a web-based console to manage all your devices. You can monitor and get notifications. You can do remote troubleshooting using Chrome device management. And that's where you configure all of your policies from one simple interface. Finally, from a flexibility standpoint, Google's always about going with industry standards. And so any HTML5 compliant application can work on this device. As Walter mentioned, it could be a kiosk type device in which it's touchscreen and interactive, or it could just be where it's just digital signage. The AOpen has integrated like RJ50 connectivity to their commercial grade devices, and so that you can have kind of a broader support for different peripherals as well as screens. And then finally, you can use our Chrome operating system as a platform for many different use cases. It does have Bluetooth built in, so it does have beacon support that you could leverage Eddystone. We mentioned touch screens, but you can leverage these devices both as interactive displays as well, leveraging touchscreen or non-touchscreen type applications. Now I'll switch gears and talk about Chrome device management. And this is the software that we resell as part of the solution, which enables you as an administrator to manage your devices at scale. You have up to 200 different policies that you can set for your devices to inherit these different characteristics that however you want to set these particular devices at scale. When we talk about these settings from this admin console, this web-based console that you have with Chrome device management, these are some of the different settings that are available. The most important when we're talking about digital signage or kiosk solution is the kiosk settings. And so this is the idea that I can tell the device, when you boot up, I only want you to boot up to the Arreya software, and in particular, your particular playlist of content. When I was recently talking to a customer, and they used to spend over an hour and a half configuring a device on a different platform. But when they moved to Chrome, it only took them up to 7 minutes because it's a very easy point and click and the ability to say, I want everything else locked down except for this one application running. Some of the highlights of Chrome device management, what you can do in this web-based console is the ability to see health monitoring, how the device is doing. You can get admin alerts via SMS if there is a problem with a device with all the details. You can do remote screen capture. You can reboot boxes, and you can even get your log files as well. I wanted to insert a screenshot of our device management console so that you can just kind of get a feel for it. You can also see that we just even have a color-coded status on per devices, so you can quickly look over, besides getting SMS messages or on the health monitoring, and be able to see the status of each of your devices. I can't stress enough how easy it is to deploy our devices. You literally log into your web-based console. You set up your configuration, whether you're setting a kiosk application to run, and then once you take your box out, enroll it into that policy, and then connect it to a display. When we talk about the different SKUs available, there's a $150 perpetual SKU for Chrome device management per device, or there's an annual SKU. That's either a $50 annual SKU or a $24 annual SKU. The $24 annual SKU is a pretty new SKU. And what we designed that specifically for was kiosk and digital signage, because it doesn't need all of the 200 policies that we talked about. Some of those policies more pertain to a full end user using a PC workstation. And that's the difference, that you don't need those particular policies, and that's why it's at a discounted price of $24 per year per device for Chrome device management. Wanted to throw this last slide in to show a recent white paper from IDC that showed that the leveraging Chrome in kiosk mode versus a traditional PC has almost a 50% reduction in the management hours per device per year. The cost of the devices are almost 60% lower. And then, when you look at this overall annual benefit, there's about a 319% ROI over 3 years. So with that, I'll turn this back over to Walter.
Thanks for that, John. That was a great overview of Chrome device management and what we use it for here. We do use Chrome device management internally for our clients as well as our own devices. You hit a lot of the key points that not only apply to Chrome device management, but are more philosophical points that we try to apply to Arreya as well. Being simple, secure, everything's remotely managed, automatic updates to make life easy on the end user and IT staff. I really can't emphasize enough the difference of going from a traditional PC-based platform and trying to use that for digital signage and kiosks to going to something like Chrome. The experience that you mentioned of setting a device up, it did take hours before. And now, especially if we're adding a device to an existing OU, it's as simple as just logging into that device. So the process has been very streamlined. It's something we can teach end users and customers if we need to. And it also really helps get IT involved in these projects. Depending on what industry you're in, sometimes there is resistance from IT in bringing in other solutions, where they're solutions based on platforms that might be competing with things that are already in-house. So having these utilities that reduce the stress on IT and on-premise IT really, really helps get that in the door and give them a good overall solution for the long term. A lot of times, the longer you can go without an incident, the happier a customer is, and this is really a piece that powers that. One of the great things is when you do have an issue, those tools are available. You do have alerts sent to your phone if there's an issue. There's a number of things we can do that way, even down to the remote screenshots and logs. So it's a very, very important piece when you look at an overall package of signage. I think it was Miles mentioned, what do you do when there's a monitor up on the wall that you have to get a ladder to get to? In this case, with our management pieces in place, you can make a few clicks in your browser and you never have to climb that ladder. So thanks, John, for speaking to that. It was definitely informative. So moving forward, I do want to look at us as a complete package here. If you think of Arreya as powering the content, AOpen is providing the devices, and Chrome is powering those and managing those devices for us. So it becomes a complete package, all the pieces that you need. You don't have to jump around with other vendors or other programs to get everything together. It's something that we've tested in-house. You're not left to kind of put together your own solution. So I'm going to leave it open for a little bit of Q&A here before we do the Chrome-based mini giveaway. If you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the chat box. If you have the longer term question, if you want to leave us a comment, email us, support@arreya.com, or give us a call. Or if you have a question for John or AOpen, feel free to reach out. We've got a question here from Dave. Dave's asking, the only IT-dependent piece is getting permission set to log in to your Wi-Fi network. Is that correct? Typically, that is the biggest piece. Arreya requires an internet connection. So as far as interfacing with IT in these devices, a lot of times the only piece IT needs to provide is that clean internet connection. Whether that's through Ethernet for certain devices or other devices would be Wi-Fi. A lot of times if you're ordering more than one device, the devices will be pre-configured with a white glove service where they'll actually ask for that information and preload the Wi-Fi settings into the device so that when it arrives at your office, as soon as you unpack it and plug it in, it's already set up for your network. Alternatively, if you want to do that process in-house, that's possible as well. It really is just a process of getting the Wi-Fi login information and if there's a key file or anything involved with that. It's a pretty simple setup process. If you've ever connected a laptop to your Wi-Fi network, it's very, very similar. If you're doing it through the management console, it's even simpler. You're just given a couple options and the policy gets pushed to the device. That is another great point of the management console. As things change down the road, so you have some Wi-Fi devices and you know that next month they're going to change the Wi-Fi password, you can actually push that change out to the device beforehand, so there is no downtime. You can remotely configure those network settings if there's ever any changes. You can get those changes in place ahead of time. Another question that came in is from Ted Tomes. He's asking, does the content cache on the Chrome device if the connection is lost? And this is a little more complicated question. Typically, yes, content does cache. That's videos, images, even things like weather and data that we feed through Arreya. Things that don't cache would be things like YouTube videos, because they're by nature are going to be streaming from the YouTube site, and other things that might use non-cacheable content on the internet, things that are typically streaming. On our end, we do try and cache everything we can, but some of those services are specifically designed not to provide that feature. That also goes for embedded websites. If you're embedding content from a third party, they're going to be in control over whether that can be cached or not a lot of the time. So things like other websites, other utilities, or even things, images and videos, depending on how they're brought in from other sites, may or may not be able to be cached, but it's really up to that originating site to control that ability. It is a pretty popular test to take a device, load up a presentation, and unplug the power or unplug the internet and see how it reacts to those type of scenarios. So it is something that's tested regularly by us as well as some of the hardware manufacturers as a core ability. Are there any other questions before we get to the Chrome-based mini giveaway? Another question came in, a couple of them. So I'll kind of go in reverse here. Adam Courier is asking, can a zone of video play over a video background? The answer is yes. We support full transparency. We support video on video. Some of the other services you might be used to might limit the amount of zones or videos you can have. We've done examples where we actually have multiple live streams with transparency and background videos going, even on some of the most simple devices available in the Chrome lineup. So definitely that's something you can do. A lot of that just comes down to a lot of times the biggest struggle for some of the clients is coming up with the initial video. If you're a video production guy, it's probably going to be second nature to you. Kind of a follow-up question on that is, can we pull in an RTSP stream or an RTMP stream? These are a type of streaming protocol. It's a way to stream video live. Probably the best way to do something like that would be to feed your stream into YouTube Live so that it's archived and you have all the video controls there for the streaming aspect of it. And then you can embed that YouTube live stream right in Arreya by copying and pasting the link into the YouTube widget. Jan Smith had a couple questions. Jan says, I'm new to this and coming from an educational perspective. I plan to build a Google slideshow that I can edit daily. Can I make 2 slideshows to have showing on a display at the same time? A primary and a secondary set of slides. Maybe 1 pictures and another set of slides for announcements. Absolutely. A lot like running multiple videos, there's no real limitation on our end for the number of slides you can embed or the number of widgets you can place, whether that's on one page or if you want to take advantage of the dynamic slideshow feature and put one of those slideshows on each page and have it rotate through. Number of ways you can display those, whether it's side by side, separate pages, top and bottom. It's really up to you on how you want to display those. There's not a limit on our side. So you could actually give control over one of those Google Slides presentations to somebody who just does the announcements and maybe someone else just does the news or the schedule. Another question that came up is, can we employ UDP triggers? Currently, we do not have incoming events. That's something we are working on, is being able to trigger Arreya content from a third-party source. We do have external triggers right now. So today you can actually set up Arreya to trigger UDP, TCP, webhooks, and a couple other different types, serial or RS-232 commands. For those of you that aren't familiar with these terms, these are different protocols that we can have our device talk to other devices. So you could have a touch point that sends a command to your lighting system to turn on the lights. The flip side is the question that's being asked, and that's, can you have the lighting system send a command to Arreya to change the content? Not yet, but that's definitely something we're working on. If there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our Chrome-based mini giveaway. The giveaway here is going to work. We have all the names of everybody who's signed up for the webinar, and we've got those cut up and put into a box here. I'm going to draw out of that box, and I'm going to call off the name. If you're here, just drop us a note in the chat. We'll figure out how to get in touch with you from your sign-up information. And if we don't have a winner, I'll keep drawing names until we land on somebody that's here today. Shaking up our box of names. And the winner of the Chrome-based Mini from AOpen is Jody Weaver from Hillsborough Community College. Jody, if you're here and watching the webinar today, just throw us a note in the chat. We'll go ahead and wait 5 minutes to see if you're here. If not, we'll move on to another name. While we wait to see if Jody Weaver's here, there's a couple other questions that came in. I'm going to go ahead and answer those while we wait. Ted's asking, can an external camera be controlled by the system, like a picture kiosk? The answer is yes. It's not a built-in widget that we have available in the public interface, but we have done integrations with cameras in a number of different situations. Basically, as long as the device, like an AOpen Chrome-based Mini, has a camera built into it, we can use that camera. Or we could use an external camera as long as it communicates using a standard protocol. So typically, if it's a newer camera that can be connected over USB, we can use that. Or one that's built into the device. The big question there is, usually in those applications, is what do you want to do with that photo? And that's where some of the customization and the uniqueness gets in there. Actually taking the photo from the camera is a very simple process. Another question came in from Dave. Dave says, I'm at a university. Is there integration where a panic button can be pushed in an emergency? There are a couple ways that this can be done today. This kind of goes back to the question from Adam about UDP triggers. And that's, can we have something trigger the content externally? A physical button is a great example. There's a couple different ways we can do that today. One of those is through a Google Sheets integration. You can have that button change a cell in a sheet, and you can have that display when there's content in Arreya. So somebody presses a button, that modifies the sheet data, that sheet makes a message show on the screen. It's not an instant reaction. That is what we're looking for in the end with something like that. But it is a way to get that reaction going today. There is also a built-in feature within Arreya for alerts. So if you do want to put a message up across all of your devices, right on the dashboard, there's a place where you can enter in an alert message manually. Yeah, so Dave, that alert feature that we have right now, it isn't triggered by an external button, but it is something where you can go in on the dashboard of your account and type in a message. It overrides all the other content and displays that message scrolling across the screen. One last call for Jody Weaver at Hillsborough Community College. You've won the AOpen Chrome-based Mini. If we don't hear from you soon, we're going to move on to the next name.